The first thing you have to know is yourself. A man who knows himself can step outside himself and watch his own reactions like an observer. Never complain of that of which it is all times in your power to rid yourself. Mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. No society can surely be flourishing and happy of which by far the greater part of the number are poor and miserable. In regards to the price of commodities, the rise of wages operates as simple interest does. The rise of profit operates like compound interest. It is not very unreasonable that the rich should contribute to the public expense not only in proportion to their revenue but something more than in that proportion. Virtue is more to be feared than vice because its excesses are not subject to the regulation of conscience. All for ourselves and nothing for other people seems in very age of the world to have been the vile maxim of the masters of mankind. Man is an animal that makes bargains. No other animal does this. No dog exchanges bones with another. How selfish soever man may be supposed, there are evidently some principles in his nature which interest him in the fortune of others and render their happiness necessary to him, though he derives nothing from it except the pleasure of seeing it. Problems worthy of attacks proves their worth by hitting back. The learned ignore the evidence of their senses to preserve the coherence of the ideas of their imagination. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. What is prudence in the conduct of every private family can scarce be folly in that of great kingdom. The subject of every state ought to contribute towards the support of the government as nearly as possible in proportion to their respective abilities. Man naturally desires not only to be loved but to be lovely. There is no art which one government sooner learns of another than that of draining money from the pockets of the people. We are but one of the multitude, in no respect better than any other in it. Consumption is the sole end and purpose of all production. The great source of both the misery and disorders of human life seems to arise from overrating the difference between one permanent situation and another. Hatred and anger are the greatest poison to the happiness of a good mind. In ease of body and peace of mind, all different ranks of life are nearly upon the same level, and the beggar who shuns himself by the highway possesses that security which kings are fighting for. Virtue is excellence, something uncommonly great and beautiful which rises far above what is vulgar and ordinary. The furious behavior of an angry man is more likely to exasperate us against himself than against his enemies. A nation is not made wealthy by the childish accumulation of shiny metals, but it's enriched by the economic prosperity of its people. The division of labor, however, so far as it can be introduced, occasions in every art a proportionable increase of the productive powers of labor. The profligacy of a man of fashion is looked upon with much less contempt and aversion than that of a manner of condition. The great secret of education is to direct vanity to proper objects. In the common degree of the moral there is no which is excellence. As soon as the land of any country has all become private property, the landlords, like all other men, love to reap where they never sowed and demand rent even for its natural produce. Every man, as long as he does not violate the laws of justice, is left perfectly free to pursue his own interest, his own way, and to bring both his industry and capital into competition with those of any other man or order of man. No society can flourish of which the greater part is poor and miserable. The wages of labor are the encouragement of industry which, like every other human quality, improves in proportion to the encouragement it receives. When our passive feelings are almost always so sordid and so selfish. A great stock throw with small profits generally increase faster than a small stock with great profits. Money, says the proverb, make money. When you have a little, it is often easier to get more. The great difficulty is to get that little. It is not for its own sake that man desires money, but for the sake of what they can purchase with it. It was not by gold or by silver, but by labor, that all the wealth of the world was originally purchased. The first duty of the sovereign, that is protecting the society from the violence and invasion of other independent societies, can be performed only by means of a military force. A merchant, it has been said very properly, is not necessarily the citizen of any particular country. It appears evidently from experience that man is of all sorts of luggage the most difficult to be transported. To feel much for others and little for ourselves, to restrain our selfishness and exercise our benevolent affections, constitute the perfection of human nature. I have always considered David Hume as approaching as nearly the idea of perfectly wise and virtuous man as perhaps the nature of human frailty will allow. Though those different plans were perhaps first introduced by the private interest and prejudices of particular order of man without any regard to the desire of being beloved, the desire of pursuing, of leading and directing other people seems to be one of the strongest of all our natural desires. The most cared laws of justice are the laws which guard the life and person of your neighbor. Wages, profit, and rent are the three original sources of all revenue as well as of all exchangeable value. All other revenue is ultimately derived from someone or other of these. Society may subsist, though not in the most comfortable state, without beneficence, but the prevalence of injustice must utterly destroy it. Science is the great antidote to the poison of enthusiasm and superstition.